Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Baseball with an Oklahoma twist will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm B.J. Williams. With me is Bob Burke to tell us about his book, Allie Reynolds, Super Chief. Susie Beasley will talk with Ruby Soutier. Kids Corner will feature Ronna Davis. We also have Doug Benton and Linda Kavanaugh. Coming up, Bob Burke.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, B.J. Williams.
Bob Burke is here with us tonight to tell us about his book, Allie Reynolds, Super Chief. He wrote the book with Royce Parr. I think if you have been watching Read About It at all regularly, you know a great deal about Bob Burke. He's written more books about more Oklahomans than anybody else in the world, I think. He is also a practicing attorney. He's been involved in sports and also state politics, but he's here to tell us about Allie Reynolds, who was an Oklahoman and part Creek, wasn't he?
That's correct. Creek, a fellow who was born in Bethany, grew up in Oklahoma, and after he retired from an incredible career in Major League Baseball as one of the most dominant pitchers of his era in the 40s and 50s, came back to Oklahoma, was in the oil business, was president of the American Association, president of the Oklahoma City 89ers for a while, and loved Oklahoma and died here and is buried here. A true Oklahoman.
But his big career stuff was done with the New York Yankees.
Oh yes, Allie Reynolds, one of the great Yankees of all time. Casey Stengel, the legendary manager of the New York Yankees, said that in a tough ball game, a low-scoring 1-0 ball game, there was no pitcher he ever had, and he had them all. He had the Whitey Fords and all the great pitchers, Don Larson, all the great Yankee pitchers, but it was Allie Reynolds from Oklahoma that Casey Stengel said he wanted in the game when the pennant was on the line.
Well, you start out the book actually by comparing Reynolds with Jim Thorpe.
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's the natural comparison because both were Native Americans from Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people love to sit around the hot stove in the winter and compare Thorpe. And Allie Reynolds comes up out on top of that, obviously, mm-hmm. even though Thorpe was voted the greatest athlete in the world in the first half of the 20th century. Allie Reynolds was a person who, in baseball, certainly, had no equals during his time.
And yet, he mostly played football when he was in college.
He did, and it's an interesting story. His father was a Nazarene preacher in Bethany, and his father said, you can't play baseball on Sunday. And in the 20s and 30s, baseball was primarily a Sunday game in Oklahoma. People donned their Sunday best and after church went out to the local field of where the local 9 people, best players from one town, would play the town team from another town. And it was a Sunday afternoon sport. He couldn't play that, so he had to turn to football. He went to Capitol Hill High School, was an incredible running back, a star at Capitol Hill, then went to Oklahoma A&M on a track scholarship, tried out quite a javelin thrower. And then the great Henry Iba at A&M, who, because of poor times and the Depression, was not only the athletic director, but also was the basketball coach and the baseball coach, discovered Allie when he asked him to pitch batting practice. And Allie did such an incredible job. He then became a great baseball player at A&M. The baseball field in Stillwater at Oklahoma State University is Allie Reynolds Stadium. And goes from there. Became a minor league baseball player and then on to the Cleveland Indians for 4 years and then finished out his incredible career with the New York Yankees as a dominant pitcher.
Well, now in reading this, that discovery when he was doing batting practice, apparently he thought you were supposed to try to strike him out.
Oh yeah. Batting practice is for the guys to get some practice of hitting the ball. Well, in his street clothes, Allie just shows up and strikes everybody out. So Hank Iba found himself a pitcher that day.
Mm-hmm. And you talk all the way through this about not only about baseball statistics. This is a wonderful book for anybody who likes baseball because you really get.
Yeah, you got to like baseball because if you don't, you're not going to understand saves and ERAs and RBIs and no hitters.
Right. Well, no hitters. I think I've got the concept on that one.
See, Allie was the first pitcher in the American League to ever pitch 2 no-hitters in a single season. He did that even through 75 years of baseball. There had only been no pitcher had pitched in the American League 2 no-hitters in a single season. Allie did that in 1951.
And now the New York Yankees were a real powerhouse in the years that he was
No
playing for
question.
them.
In fact, he was part of the record that will probably never be broken of a team winning 5 world championships in a row. From 1948 to 52, the Yankees won 5 world championships in a row, and Allie was a great part of that. In fact, Whitey Ford is the only pitcher in Major League Baseball history who has a better World Series record than Allie does. Allie's 7-2. He won 7 of 9 games pitching in the World Series, has 4 saves in the World Series. Incredible World Series record that is unmatched other than by Whitey Ford.
So very impressive, and yet he always came back to Oklahoma.
Oh yes, his roots were never there. And you know, we talk about his exploits on the baseball diamond, but the greatest thing, in Allie's words, when he was still alive, if you would ask him what's the best thing you ever did, what's your greatest achievement, it was that as the players' representative for the American League in the early 50s, he was very instrumental in setting up the pension plan that the older ball players who are alive now still credit Allie with that. The greatest achievement he ever had was not striking out someone or throwing a no-hitter, but in his own words, he felt like it was creating a pension plan that was best in professional sports at the time.
And still one of the best.
Oh, absolutely.
And when he came back to Oklahoma, he went into the oil business.
Yes.
But he also got very involved in life here in Oklahoma City.
He was. It was his idea for Red Earth. He was one of the founders of Red Earth because of his Creek heritage and because of wanting to do things to perpetuate the Creek culture and the Native American culture that we're so proud of in Oklahoma. He was involved in many civic activities. He was just a great fellow. And before he died, 10 years ago, I asked him, Allie, let me do your biography. And he said, no, I've done nothing. So it's another one of those humble Oklahomans that I had to wait until after his passing to write the book.
But he wasn't all that humble when he was on the pitcher's mound, was he?
No.
That's when all that competition and I'm going to win comes through. There was a passage in here where people played well, not because of the manager, not because they wanted to win, but because they didn't want Allie mad at them afterwards.
That's right. You better back me up. If I'm pitching the ball hard, don't muff a ball at shortstop. You know, do your part too.
Right.
Yes.
So there was that incredible competitive spirit, and I think that showed up also in his efforts to get to college, where he had to have a scholarship, he had to work jobs.
Yeah, his parents couldn't help him. He was one of those true stories, and I always tell you this about people I write about. Maybe it's something in my psyche that says I like to write about people who had to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, but this is another one of those fellows who had to go make his own life, and he did so very well. Warren Spahn, the winningest left-hander in the history of baseball, has written the foreword to this book, and Warren and Allie played minor league baseball together back in the 30s and early 40s, and just says that Allie's one of the greatest pitchers of all time. In fact, all you have to do is look at the back of the dust jacket to see how Allie Reynolds was loved. I noticed that I have quotes from Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, Casey Stengel, Al Rosen, Jackie Robinson, Warren Spahn, Roger Maris, Roger Kahn, the great players of all time said Allie, well, in fact, Joe DiMaggio said that there's no pitcher I would ever like to have on the mound on my ball team in a close game than Allie Reynolds.
That's great, and unfortunately, that's where we're going to have to stop.
Okay.
The best pitcher, and I want to thank you very much, Bob, for being with us today.
Hey, my pleasure.
We've had with us today Bob Burke telling us about his book, Allie Reynolds, Super Chief. You can find it at your library and your favorite bookstore. Coming up next, Susie Beasley will be talking with Ruby Soutier about a CD I think almost every one of us is going to want to check out.
Ruby, tell us about Today, Tomorrow, and Forever, performed by Elvis Presley.
Well, this is a new 4-CD set that just came out. I think it came out to celebrate the 25th anniversary of his death, which I think is a sad thing to celebrate. But anyway, it contains 100 previously unreleased recordings. It has things from the whole spectrum of Elvis's performing life. It starts in 1954 and goes all the way through to the very end of his career, which I think the last things he recorded were 76
Correct.
before he died in 77.
Right.
But it has rockabilly, which is what he started out with. It has some gospel, which is one of his first loves. It has a lot of the Hollywood tunes. It has some releases of other people's material. It has a Del Shannon song on it. It has a Ricky Nelson song on it. It has country music on it.
Now, you said there were some recordings here that had never been released.
Right. What they are, a lot of them are alternate takes from studio sessions.
Okay.
Say maybe take 1 was what they released, and this will have like alternate take 3 or alternate take 5. It also has some material from live performances that I guess was recorded as he was performing but never actually released.
And everything. So what did you consider the high points of this particular CD set?
Well, the title track, Today, Tomorrow, and Forever, was a duet recorded with Anne Margaret, and it was recorded during the filming of Viva Las Vegas, which is one of his films, but the duet ended up not in the film. I guess it ended up on the cutting room floor, as they say.
Get that out of there.
And the recording that was released originally was just Elvis singing it.
Right.
And they just recently evidently rediscovered this duet. And so it is Elvis and Anne Margaret singing Today, Tomorrow, and Forever.
Now, do you have any favorite songs on this particular CD set?
I do. There
And
is
what
an
are they?
Italian song, and I can't remember the name of it, but there is a song that was originally released in Italian that they then translated into English for Elvis. I think it's called Ask Me or something like that, and it's a beautiful song. And then I like a lot of the Hollywood tunes. I love
There's
the
also
old,
a photographic set, kind of like a collage.
there is a
of all the
little
things.
book that
Comes
you
with
can
it.
look at that comes with it.
Okay.
It also has on disc 1 one of his very first performances in 1956, and the sound quality is not the best, but it shows what set the world on fire in 1956.
Well, Ruby, we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us Today, Tomorrow, and Forever, performed by Elvis Presley, some rediscovered musical recordings, and this is available at your local library and perhaps your favorite music or CD shop. We'll see you next time.
Yo, see that girl? She sets the curve in my math class. Always has her homework right. Me? I hate homework, but I gotta do it, you know? But I found out her secret. She logs on to the Metro Library website and then clicks on their homework center. I couldn't believe what they have there. Help for math, science, English, and lots of other stuff too, like encyclopedias, newspapers, magazines, even science experiments. Metro Library's Homework Center website is one-stop shopping. You can even find the phone number of the nearest library so you can renew your library books. Check it out. It's like having the resources of an entire bookstore right in your computer. And since it's from Metro Library, you know the information will be dependable and up to the minute. But hey, I gotta go and log on and get to work. From now on, I'm setting the curve.
Thanks, Ruby and Susie. And I'm here now with Doug Benton, and I'm going to bore him to tears with a book that I think, yeah, there we go, there we go. This is Jane Ann Krentz's latest book. She started out writing romance and has graduated to light suspense. She's had probably at least 25 to 30 books on the New York Times bestseller list. So she's a very popular writer, very good. She's well known for her feisty female characters. She has pretty good character development, light and sparkling dialogue. She's one of those writers who really thinks that even if you read romance novels or romantic fiction, that you have a brain and you can use it. And she's gotten into a lot of suspense. She does some historical romance as well. But this one, Light and Shadow, which is very new, starts out with our feisty heroine, interior decorator, having to hire a private investigator. And we just gradually find out that our heroine has recently escaped from a very private insane asylum, which starts to make us wonder, okay, is she really, she hires a private eye because she thinks a murder has been done in a house she was hired to redecorate. And, well, does she really think that, or is she still nuts?
Yeah.
And then it turns out not only was she incarcerated, her husband was murdered right before that, and she got a little hysterical about it. So we've got a number of plots going on here. But the main attraction really is the characters and how they deal with life and that sort of thing. So if you like light suspense, I guess is what I would call it. This is a very enjoyable book. It's nothing that's going to strain anything. It's a great, what I call a hammock read.
Yeah.
But it's not the kind that when you get through with it, you're going to say, I feel dumber than when I started, which happens on occasion.
Yes, it does. I'm sorry to say.
But this is a book that will keep you somewhat intrigued, trying to figure out just what is going on, who is the real villain here. She does manage to conceal that pretty much throughout the book, and that is really quite an accomplishment. Enjoyable. Try some of her other books, and afraid it's time now to go with Kids Corner.
Okay. And
we've got Kelly Rhea talking with Ronna Davis about a book just for our young adults.
The next book we're going to talk about is very good. It's called The Adventures of the Blue Avenger, and it's by Norma Howe. Ronna, tell us all about it.
Well, this was a very interesting book, which I chose because of the cover.
It looks like a comic book superhero cover.
Yes, and I thought, oh, this will be light and fluffy, and it actually wasn't totally light and fluffy. I would characterize it as surrealistic in a way. The boy who's the hero of this book is a 16-year-old whose father has been accidentally killed in a freak accident, and questions fate and questions whether anybody has free will or whether they're just subject to all these different factors in the universe that might cause something to happen. So he decides to change his name, exercising his own free will, and I guess with his mother's permission, to Blue Avenger.
Oh, he changes his name completely.
He changes his name completely. Oh. His first name is Blue, and his last name is Avenger.
And so, as the Blue Avenger, does that change his life at all?
I get the impression from reading this book that it changes how he deals with what happens around him, because as the author states, there's always some kind of choice, or many times there's some kind of choice that you can make, even if it's a small one. And what happens, for example, with his teacher, is his teacher's surrounded by some killer bees in the middle of a swim meet, and he leaps up as the Blue Avenger and grabs her and throws her or carries her into a swimming pool. And the killer bees
rescue
go
her.
away. That's right.
Because he believes that he is this character.
Yes, and it just happens that there's some sports photographers there, and they take his picture, and he becomes locally famous.
How wonderful! Well, so he's got a path. He's got a future that he's embarking on by his own choice.
Exactly. Even though he sort of questions it as he goes along, but he becomes stronger in his identity as Blue Avenger as the novel progresses.
This sounds like a really good book for teen boys.
Yeah, about 16 years old. I think it's really good.
Great. You'll really like this book. It's called Adventures of the Blue Avenger, and it's by Norma Howe, and we think that you'll like it a lot at your local bookstore or at your favorite library.
It's time now for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out with hardback fiction. Number 10 on that list is From a Buick 8 by Stephen King, The Christmas Train by David Baldacci, Answered Prayers by Danielle Steele, Red Rabbit by Tom Clancy, Hornet Flight by Ken Follett, By the Light of the Moon by Dean Koontz, Skipping Christmas by John Grisham, Prey by Michael Crichton, Four Blind Mice by James Patterson is number 2. Alice Sebold's The Lovely Bones is number 1. On the nonfiction list, number 10 is Sandy Koufax by Jane Levy, Live from New York by Tom Shales and James Miller, The Conquerors by Michael Beschloss, Stupid White Men by Michael Moore, My Losing Season by Pat Conroy, A Long Way from Home by Tom Brokaw, Journals by Kurt Cobain, Leadership by Rudy Giuliani with Ken Kurson, Portrait of a Killer by Patricia Cornwell is number 2, and number 1 is Bush at War by Bob Woodard. On the children's list, number 10 is the all-new Captain Underpants Extra Crunchy Book of Fun 2 by Dav Pilkey, Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt, Junie B. First Grader at Last by Barbara Park, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers Creatures, Artemis Fowl by Ian Colfer, Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul on Love and Friendship by Canfield, Hansen, and Kerberger, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling is number 4, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by Rowling, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is number 2, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is number 1. Next we have Doug Benton from the Metropolitan Library System and the Oklahoma Gazette, and now Doug is going to tell me all about a book he has read.
Yeah, actually, this is an older book. I got a new copy of it, new edition for Christmas. I wanted to bring it up. And it's based on a series of documentaries that ran on television on PBS back in the 70s, I guess. It has been a long time. But it's recently been rerun on Turner Classic Movies. So people might be thinking about this again now. The book is called The Men Who Made the Movies. The series was called that as well. And it's a series of 8 interviews with classic directors. People who are only interested in current films, no, there's not going to be anything in here immediately for them. Although what these older guys had to say about movie making is still very pertinent. The book is by Richard Schickel, who for years was film reviewer for Look magazine, and has done work for Time as well. He's really better known, I think, as a documentarian. He's made several films on Hollywood history, and as a film historian and biographer. But anyway, it's a fascinating book, I think, if you are interested in that Turner Classic Movie generation of filmmakers. There are interviews in here with Alfred Hitchcock, Frank Capra, Vincent Minnelli, George Cukor, Howard Hawks, William Wellman, King Vidor, and Raoul Walsh. And some of the interviews are just plain fun. I mean, he's got Raoul Walsh, for instance, who directed mostly action films in the late 30s and 40s, what he's best known for. Movies like High Sierra with Humphrey Bogart, and The Roaring Twenties with James Cagney, and White Heat with Cagney later on. Walsh is a wonderful storyteller, and he likes to just reminisce about the old days. He began in silent films as a director and as an actor. He plays John Wilkes Booth in Birth of a Nation for D.W. Griffith. He goes back quite a way. Yes. He has a wonderful story in here, but I'll try to get it out very quickly, about Errol Flynn, who he worked with many times, and Flynn's good friend John Barrymore. When Barrymore died, Flynn was inconsolable. They were very close, and in many ways Flynn fashioned his life after Barrymore's, which was a terrible mistake. Yes. But they were very close, and when Barrymore died, Flynn was just very upset. So Walsh says, what I did was I went to the funeral parlor and I borrowed Flynn's body. The guy who worked there was an old movie extra, and and I took the body to Flynn's house and propped it up in a chair, and told Flynn's butler, Barrymore's not dead, he's just drunk. He's stiff, so they stretched him out. Flynn comes home, sees the body, screams bloody murder, runs outside, hides in the bushes. Walsh takes the body back to the funeral parlor, and the guy asks him, tell me, Mr. Walsh, what did you do with him? He says, I took him up to Errol Flynn's house. The guy said, well, I wish you told me you were taking him. I would have put a better suit on him. Other guys, like Hitchcock and King Vidor, are very much the philosophers of filmmaking. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, and they talk about planning and pre-planning everything, and their determination to use the image rather than the word, even when they both started making talking films. There's a wonderful story of Vidor working on his World War I epic, The Big Parade, which was silent, and how he had, in one of the battle scenes, somebody pounding on a drum, a bass drum, a metronomic beat, and every movement in the scene is to that rhythm, so that it looks like silent music as you watch it. Frank Capra comes across as being one of the great comedy directors. with a great social conscience and also very arrogant. He comes across as being one of the most arrogant men in the world. Howard Hawks, another action director, also famous for his comedies, is not so philosophic. He likes to tell stories. Anyway, I can't talk about everybody in here because it's a marvelous book, but it's The Men Who Made the Movies by Richard Schickel.
Thanks, Doug. Coming up next, we have M.J. Van Deventer, Director of Publications at the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. She's talking with Linda Cavanaugh, the great news anchor at K4 TV. I think you'll enjoy the book Linda's talking about.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. So nice to have you here.
Such a pleasure.
And we were talking before the show started, and you said something I thought was really interesting for my favorite anchor woman.
You're nice.
That you read fiction to escape the reality.
I think I deal with
TV
so much
news.
reality with television news that sometimes it's just nice to have something totally different. So my husband reads nothing but nonfiction. I read nothing but fiction. So we really don't share books very much. And I brought 3 different ones this morning because they all represent something different. The first one is The Last Promise by Richard Evans. And I don't know if you read the Christmas box that he wrote several years ago.
No, I didn't.
Big popular Christmas story. But in this one, it's kind of a love story. And I like the emotion that comes through in it and the characters. It's about an American woman who ends up in Italy in wine country. And it's the story of how she has to choose between her son and her marriage and then a new friend that she meets in between.
Oh, lots of conflict.
Oh yeah, so it's a lot of fun. And I brought Dean Koontz because as my children went through high school, and I still have a daughter in high school, their English teacher suggested that they read Dean Koontz in preparation for all the college exams that they take.
That's really an interesting concept.
In fact, I asked my son twice about, are you sure that's who he said? And he said absolutely, because of the vocabulary he uses and his thought structure in the way that the novels unfold a little bit, I think prepares the kids for some of these tests that they're going to be taking. And so that's why I originally started reading Dean Koontz, and then I kind of got hooked on him because he's a wordsmith.
Well, and he writes big books, too.
Yeah, and I like big books. The one you get your money's worth, don't you?
It takes a long time to read those.
And I just told you that I don't read nonfiction. And quite frankly, I got this one by mistake. Patricia Cornwell, she writes generally a series of detective novels. And so I picked this up, seeing her name, thinking this was just another in her series about this forensic medical examiner, a female. And the latest in that series, and I started reading it. It's not that at all. It's about Jack the Ripper.
She's had a lot of publicity on this.
She has. Patricia Cornwell she has a forensic background. So she uses 21st century forensics to go back to the late 1800s to try to prove in her mind who the real Jack the Ripper was. You know, there was really no conclusive evidence at that time. And so she goes back and she looks at all the evidence that she could find, including some of the writing samples and things like that, and puts them all together and comes up with her conclusion of who Jack the Ripper really was, the really first notarized serial killer.
And she thinks she's really solved the
She
case.
believes she has. Now, I haven't finished the book, so I can't tell you whether I believe she has or not, but
Now, do you have all these 3
great.
books going all at the same time?
No, I usually start a book and finish it. Yeah.
So which is your favorite?
Of these 3, probably Koontz, just because I like the way he writes. But I try to read right before I go to bed every night. So I finish 2 or 3 books a week. And I just find that your eyes moving across the page is so relaxing that, you know, no matter what's happened at work, you can fall asleep quicker.
Well, thank you for bringing these 3.
Thank you for
sharing
inviting
with
me.
us today.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know it is wet, and the sun is not sunny.
Hi, my name is Jose Jimenez of your Metropolitan Library Commission. You know, most experts tell us that if you just spend 20 minutes a day reading to your child, you're not only building a bond that lasts a lifetime, but you're also preparing that child to learn how to read. Check with the experts at your Metropolitan Library for suggestions on just the right books for you and your family. And visit us at our website at www.metrolibrary.org.
Check out the library on the web at www.metrolibrary.org. Find out everything you ever wanted to know about the Metropolitan Library System. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again next time.
Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote